Hi there, smart drivers. Car maintenance costing you more money. That's what we're going to talk about today. Things you can do, intervals at which you need to do these things on your vehicle, and some of these things you can do yourself to save you money instead of taking it to a shop. Maintenance, look after your ride. It will look after you. I have talked to many automotive technicians who rebuilds engines, and one of the things that they say is if you want your engine to last, you need to change the oil in your vehicle every 5,000 kilometers, every 3,000 miles, regardless. I know that we have all this synthetic oil now, and some of these manufacturers are saying that you don't have to do an oil change for 7,500 kilometers, 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles. Some of them are doing it 12,500 kilometers on it. I know that this is what they're saying. However, the reality is that 5,000 kilometers, if you get an engine that's up over 100,000 miles, 150,000 kilometers on it, you need to be changing the oil at more regular intervals. Oil is cheap. Engines, on the other hand, are not cheap. Know that for the purposes of keeping your vehicle running in tip-top shape. It's a video to have a look at, CDL driver's jobs. If you want to learn how to drive bus, you want to learn how to drive truck and make money from doing that, have a look at that video. It's down in the description. And I will be talking about this next week. If you are interested in starting a career as a transit bus driver, I'm going to talk about transit bus drivers and what you need to do to get hired by a transit authority. What is some of the work that you're going to be looking at, and what the work environment is like. You're going to be working in a union, and you are not going to have any seniority when you start, which means that you're going to be running trippers, which is come in the morning and work in the afternoon. So it's basically like being a school bus driver, because you work in the morning, you go home for a few hours, and then you come back in the afternoon. You work charters on the weekends and those types of things. You're not going to get a dedicated run. It's not until you get 15, maybe even 20 years as a transit bus driver that you're going to have a dedicated run with a transit authority. So we're going to talk more about that next week, and that's going to be what the whole live stream is about, is working as a transit bus driver within your city or town. Oil and tires, the first thing on the maintenance list for your vehicle. Tires, most tires are going to run you 100,000 kilometers, which is going to be about 75,000 miles is the life of your set of tires that you're going to have on your vehicle. And I do counsel you to put the best quality tires that you can on your vehicle. I know that they are super expensive, because now for a mid-sized vehicle, you're looking at $1,100, $1,200 to put a set of tires on your vehicle. If you look after them, you will get the maximum life out of these tires. Now, some of these tires have guarantees. If you buy them, they will guarantee them for 75,000 miles. Now, that does not mean that they will replace them. So say, for example, that you buy a set of tires and you only get 35,000 miles out of them, which is, say, approximately half the life of the tires. They will only give you 50% off the new tires. And in addition to the warranty and the guarantee of the tires, there are certain criteria and certain conditions of the warranty that you have to meet. For example, the tires have to be rotated every 2 oil changes, which is going to be 6,000 miles or 10,000 kilometers. Every interval of 2 oil changes, you got to rotate the tires, which means that the front tires go to the back, straight back, and then the back tires crisscross and go to the front for the most part, as long as they're not directional tires. In addition to that, at certain intervals, which is usually about 35,000 kilometers, which is about 20,000 miles, you have to have a wheel alignment done on your vehicle to meet the conditions of the warranty for the tires. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago in terms of being loyal to one tire shop. If you buy your tires from one tire shop, they will fix punctures. They will do free tire rotations for you for the life of the tires, as long as you go back to that tire shop and you buy your tires from that shop. So there is a benefit to going to one tire shop for your tires. Oil changes, okay? We talked about this in the introduction, 3,000 miles or 5,000 kilometers if your engine has over 100,000 kilometers on it. Now, as I said, synthetic oils, some of these manufacturers are recommending now that you can extend that out, like way out to some crazy numbers like 10,000 miles, 12,500 kilometers between oil changes. Me personally, I wouldn't go that far on an oil change in my vehicle. I religiously change the oil on the Buggy every 5,000 kilometers. And the last engine that was in the Buggy, I got 400,000 kilometers out of it before somebody put the timing belt in wrong, unfortunately. And I suspect it would have kept going. I've talked to lots of engine rebuilders, and they say you can tell the difference between an engine that has had regular oil changes and engines that have not. So if you want your vehicle to last, do regular oil changes on your vehicle, and that way it's going to last and it's going to not cost you a lot of money. Engines are expensive, oil is cheap. Filters, engine air filter, okay, this is one of the first things. You need to replace this at minimum once a year, because this is the air that's going into the engine of your vehicle, and once that gets blocked up, now your engine is working to bring air into it. 8 to 15,000 miles for the air engine filter. The engine fuel filter, the fuel goes through a filter before it goes into your engine. If you're on dusty, dirty roads, you're going to have to replace your air filter and your fuel filter at greater intervals than what is listed here on the slide. K&N filters. I have a K&N filter in the Buggy, which is reusable, that you just clean it twice a year. You just get a bucket of soapy water and you just dip it in and clean it. And there's some cleaner that comes with the K&N filter as well, and then you respray it with oil. I have one of those in the Buggy, and they're a little bit more expensive. They're about $100 for one of those filters, but you never have to buy another one again. So if you keep your vehicle, it could be a good investment for you instead of having to buy the paper filters once or twice a year. Cabin filters every 2 years, as if you're driving on a lot of gravel roads, doing a lot of country driving or going camping, as Emily was there previously, you may want to change your cabin filter at least once a year. Now, in the Buggy, I change the cabin filter every year. And then an aerosol bomb, you can go down, it's got a dead man switch on it. You just push it down, you have the car running with the air conditioning on, you put it in the vehicle, leave it in there for 15 or 20 minutes. It circulates through all the air conditioning and the plumbing and the heating coils and units and those types of things, and makes your car smell all nice and fresh and whatnot. And there's different scents. You can get leather, new car smell, lemony, citrus, and all those types of things for your vehicle. The automatic transmission also has a filter, and you need to do an automatic transmission service probably once every 50,000 miles on it and those types of things. If you don't know what the intervals are on any of these, look at your owner's manual for your vehicle, or consult an automotive technician to figure out when you need to do these things. All kinds of fluids in your vehicles. There's radiator fluid, transmission fluid, differential fluids, engine oil. We already talked about the engine oil, but these need to be done at certain intervals as well. I have a manual transmission. I change the manual transmission fluid once every 2 or 3 years. On an automatic transmission, as I said, you're going to have to service it 30 to 50,000 miles to keep that working well. Differential fluid, depends what kind of vehicle you have, but most vehicles are going to be all-wheel drive in this day and age. You're going to have to change out the differential fluid. Radiator fluid, most systems in this day and age are closed systems, or at least all the newer ones, and you will not put radiator fluid right into the radiator itself. You will put it into the overflow tank, which is the reservoir, the plastic reservoir next to the radiator. That is what you're going to need to do. So most of the time, the radiator fluid, you're not going to have to do anything with that. The other fluids that you're going to need to be checking is the brake fluid, because all brakes are hydraulic, and you're going to be need to checking your brake fluid as well, and the power steering fluid under the hood. And if you have any questions about any of this or need any more information, as I said, consult your owner's manual, consult the web, the Google, the powerhouse of information and those types of things. Talk to automotive technicians. They'll be able to give you information about the fluids in your vehicle. Belts, brakes, and batteries. And as Emily said, she's probably buying a new battery. I just put a new battery in the Buggy. Batteries generally will last anywhere from 5 to 8 years. The first battery that was in the Buggy lasted 13 years. I know that for a fact. Timing belts depends on the kind of engine that you have in your vehicle, and again, you will need to consult the owner's manual or online to figure out when you need to change the timing belts or timing chains in your vehicle. Some engines will have timing chains, some will have timing belts. Brakes, 50 to 75,000 miles, depending on how much you use your brakes or how little you use your brakes. And then batteries, as I talked about, 5 to 10 years for the battery. Suspension and tires. You'll need to change shocks out, probably 80 to 100,000 miles for shocks, struts, and those types of things. And you can take those into a shop. This is going to vary. And as we talked about with the beginning slide in terms of tires, this as well is going to vary. It's going to depend how much, how hard you're driving the vehicle and whatnot. Tracy's Audi has 20-inch low pros on it. The tires on it are probably about $1,800 now for a set of Michelin low pros for her Audi, depending on how hard she drives it and what kind of crazy things that she's doing, because the vehicle will go around the corner really, really, really fast, because Audis have the Quattro all-wheel drive suspension on them, or all-wheel drive suspension, and you can go around corners really fast. But the consequences of going around the corners really fast is that it tears up the tires on the vehicle. And if you or any of you are driving an electric vehicle, you're going to realize this, because they're so heavy and there's so much torque that many of these electric vehicles, these Teslas and whatnot, are going through one, maybe two sets of tires per year because of the excess torque and the excess weight of the electric vehicles. So this is another thing to consider, that if you are buying a vehicle or secondhand vehicle, what are some of the liabilities that are going to cost you money when you are owning these vehicles. Electrical, spark plugs every 12 to 15,000 miles, wires, rotors and caps. This is something that you're going to have to get an automotive technician to do, or if you're handy and you can do this stuff yourself, once every couple of years you're going to have to do these things as well in terms of the electrical on your vehicle. Troubleshooting, some of the things that you can do to maintain your vehicle. Fuel injector cleaner, put some fuel injector cleaner in it. Thermostat, I talked about the cabin filter getting plugged up. If you're not getting heat or defrost out of your vehicle in the wintertime, it could be a problem with the thermostat. Air conditioning, why is your air conditioning not working? Sometimes you just have to get the system recharged, or if you have a leak or a hole in the system, then that's not gonna work and you have to get it repaired. Defrost, cabin filter, and then fuses. If some of the electrical's not working, sometimes it's just the fuse. And I had this issue a couple of years ago where the brake light was coming on, and I thought it was the parking brake, that when you pulled the parking brake on, that the brake light was coming on. And I took it into a technician and I said, oh, the brake light keeps coming on, and I think there's something wrong. And of course, the technician said to me, oh, you need to check something else. Never thought about the fact that I should check the brake fluid in the master cylinder, and of course it cost me $100 for them to have it checked over. And then I got home and realized that the fluid level in the master cylinder, the brake fluid, was actually low in the vehicle, and had I just filled up the brake fluid, I wouldn't have had an issue with the light coming on the dash. So have a look at other things, do some research on those types of things. And if you've got a brake light or a tail light or whatnot, it might be the bulb, but it also might be the fuses in the electrical system on your vehicle. So do some research and try and figure that stuff out. Okay, lights and tire inspection, as Elevator Fan said, if you're going on a long trip, but at least once a month, you should check all the lights on your vehicle. Make sure that your headlights are working. The other little tip that you can do, if you're parked in front of a storefront and there's a glass there and there's reflection, have a look and see whether both your headlights are working. Turn your signals on. That way you don't have to get out of the vehicle. Check your brake lights, check your high-low beams, check your windshield washer fluid, works and squirts. Do a mini pre-trip on your vehicle at least once a month and make sure that everything is working. Make sure that your reverse lights are working and whatnot. Okay, and inspect your tires. Make sure no lumps, bumps, or cracks on the tires, that there's sufficient tread. And you can do that little quarter trick where put it down, and if it touches the head, you've got sufficient tread. But if it doesn't, you don't have sufficient tread. Most tires in this day and age are all going to have wear bars on them. It's a little piece of rubber down between the treads. If the tread is down to that wear bar, you don't have enough tread on your tires, and it's not safe. So have good quality tires on your vehicle, because literally when the rubber meets the road, it's the only thing that is keeping you safe. And know that the patch of tire that is in contact with the road is only about this big. It's not very big at all, and that's all that you are riding on. So keep yourself safe, have good tires on your vehicle. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. And today we're talking about vehicle maintenance with a driver's license. Many of you getting your first vehicle, and with your first vehicle, unfortunately, comes costs associated with getting a car, because it's just not the cost of the car, cost of tires, cost of putting in fuel filters, air filters, cabin filters, all those things that we need to keep our car running. And I can tell you right now, from having an old vehicle, I'm really considering if I should have bought another vehicle, because unfortunately the Buggy has been costing me a lot of money. As many of you know, Christmas time I put in a new engine, a new clutch, radiator, and a bunch of other parts that cost me over $6,000. And then there's been a couple of other things that have gone on it, and just like this week, yesterday, had to put a new exhaust piece on it, and it was another $500. And I'm just like, okay, when is this going to end? Because it is getting expensive. And my other thinking about parts for cars is that once you get past a certain point and you're putting all new car parts on it, these secondhand aftermarket car parts are not what the quality that the original manufacturer had intention for the vehicle. And I just don't think that things are lasting in the way that they should with all these aftermarket car parts and whatnot. And you get to a point where you've put so many on it that, you know, the vehicle's just going to keep breaking on you. And you got to get to a point where you're like, it's a difficult decision in terms of maintenance, because on the one hand, it's like, do I buy another vehicle or do I continue to fix the one that I have? And that is the challenge with fixing an older vehicle and continuing to fix it. And mate of mine has the same issue right now. He has a Ford pickup truck with 280,000 kilometers on it, which is like 280,000. What's that? About 190,000, 170,000 miles on it. And he's trying to determine whether he's going to buy a new pickup truck or whether he's going to continue to maintain the one he has. And now he has to put the rack and pinion in the front end of it, and that's going to be another $1,000. So it's, you know, one or the other. What do you do? Some of the things you need to do: go on long road trips, as Elevator Fan just said. He just drove out to the West Coast from the Midwest there in the United States, and definitely check the tires, do all the maintenance that you need to do, change the oil, new oil filter, new fuel filter, cabin filter. Cabin filter is inside the car. On some vehicles, it's really easy to change. On the Buggy, it's one of the few things that's not really easy to change, and it takes you about a half an hour because you got to take a bit of the dash apart to change the cabin filter. However, you probably won't notice it so much in the summertime with the cabin filter in your vehicle. It's basically the filter through which the air that comes into the inside of your vehicle is passed through. And you'll notice a plugged cabin filter more so in the winter time than you will in the summertime, because in the wintertime, if the cabin filter is plugged, the defrost will not work efficiently and those types of things. Corey, your story reminds me of the ship that, an entirely new ship at the end of its journey. Quick Google, ship of Theseus. Corey, I'll have to look up that story, but that's basically where I'm at with the Buggy. Is I'm like, what do I do? Do I put any more money into it, or can I just cross my fingers and hope that I don't have to? Because I just, when the muffler fell off the other day, or the exhaust broke, I was just like, it wasn't the muffler that fell off. Ken, my friend, I know it has to be get done, but I don't like the price of gouging in games maintenance shops pull. Ken, yeah, it's pretty tough. You got to find the shop that works for you and the shop that you trust. I have a couple of shops in town that I go to. I have had shops, unfortunately, that things have gone wrong. One of the technicians put the timing belt in the Buggy wrong twice, and consequently took a rod out of it, and the engine was done. I had to put a new engine in it. So, but unfortunately, the shop that did it, the guy is really good. And, despite all the aggravation of getting another motor put in the Buggy, he did reimburse me $1,500. So know that if you get a shop you can find that's trustworthy, then stick with that shop, because they will look after you. Thapa, your feedback and information helped a lot. Thank you so much. You are most welcome, my friend. So glad that we can help out. Elevator Fan, make sure that all the lights are working properly before you go on your road trip. Yes, indeed. Make sure your tires are properly inflated. If you don't have tire monitoring, pressure monitoring systems on your vehicle, make sure that you have a gauge and you check the tire pressure. Keep the tire pressure up on your tires so that you get maximum Fuel efficiency, if you haven't done a wheel alignment in a couple of years, you might want to take it in and get a wheel alignment on it so that, you know, it's going straight down the road as it should. Emily, my car battery died on my camping trip a few days ago. So Emily, did you get a new one? A new battery? Yeah, I had to put a new battery in the Buggy as well. And I still need a hose that I got to order from the States for the air conditioning, to get the air conditioning working. So yeah, there's been a few things of late that have really annoyed me, especially after all the money I spent on it. Putting a new engine and new clutch in it at Christmas time. But, you know, it runs great. There's no doubt about it. It runs awesome. But let me tell you, when the exhaust falls off your car and it's just coming straight out of the engine, it is really, really noisy. And, you know, driving the Buggy, the old Buggy, the 1998 Honda CR-V that I have, you know, when the exhaust fell off it and I'm driving through town, wah, 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 just I feel like Elmer Fudd driving my old Buggy. So there you go. Emily, my brother had a battery charger. Yes, and that's always handy. And you can get those little portable battery chargers now that you can put in your car. And it's just a little tiny unit. You can stick it in places in your car and have it with you. But you just got to remember to keep them charged up and those types of things. So yes, they're definitely handy, especially if you're going camping and you're somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, that all works out well. And I had that happen before I replaced the battery on the Buggy. Same thing. I had to call my mate and he comes down and I thought, oh, he's going to give me a boost. I had some battery cables and he just brings his little charge unit down and give it to me and I stuck it on and away it went. So yeah, they work well, those little battery charge units. And as I said, there's some of this stuff that you can do yourself. I changed the oil myself on the Buggy and I know that it saves me a few bucks because basically all I have to do is buy the filter and the oil. And I have a garage here, so I can change the oil in the garage as well. Now, you know, changing the tires out in the spring, I put the winter tires on it and put the all-season tires on in the summertime and those types of things. So there are a few things, if you can wield a wrench, there's, you know, a few things you can do to save money. You know, changing out cabin filters. For example, my mom's Pontiac Montana, I changed the cabin filter in it. Literally, the cabin filter is inside the glove box in the car. You open the glove box, there's a hatch there, you pull the hatch off, the cabin filter comes out and you stick in a new one. So some of the vehicles are really easy. Headlights, changing headlights, the Buggy, literally it's 5 minutes. You turn it, take the bulb out, put the new bulb in, put it back in, and it's done. Now, there are some vehicles that changing headlights are an absolute nightmare. A few years ago, I was going to make a video on how to change the headlights on the vehicles because I thought, oh, they're all the same and it's really easy. And I made a video on changing the headlight in the Buggy and I showed it to a friend of mine, a mate of mine, and he said, oh, that's just for the 1998 Honda CR-V. He said, that's not going to work for all vehicles. And then I started doing some research online and whatnot. The Chevy Malibu at the time, so this was 5 years ago, so that would have been 2018, 2019, a little more than 5 years ago, obviously. But the Chevy Malibu, it took an automotive technician more than 40 minutes to take the whole front of the car apart to change the headlight on the car. I could not believe how crazy it was to change the headlight on the Chevy Malibu. It was just insane how much work it was to change the headlight on that car. So that did not work out. Mark's teaching my grandson to drive and your videos are extremely helpful. That is awesome, Mark. And thank you so much for helping your grandson learning how to drive and those types of things. That's really awesome, my friend. Mark, if you have any questions or need any clarification on anything, definitely drop us a note. I'm always happy to help out, my friend. Talking about maintenance, we're talking about all those things that you need to do at regular intervals. Change the oil, change the filters, keep it up to date, have a look at your owner's manual for that information, take it into a qualified technician that will be able to help you out, somebody that you trust, because yes, not all technicians are the same, and trust me, I've had my issues with technicians as well. Even people that I thought I trusted trying to fix the Buggy and didn't ever get there. So there's some people you trust and there's some people you don't. If you get a reputable shop, they will look after you and definitely keep your car running for many, many miles to come. So do the maintenance, have a great ride, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.